Today's episode is sponsored by Branding Iron, Advertising, Marketing, and Public Relations. Since 2007, Branding Iron has helped bring awareness to the mission of volunteer firefighters. To learn more, visit them at brandingiron.com.
Hi, this is firefighter John Dansquano from the Lakeside Fire Department, and you're listening to Dr. Richard Gassaway on SA Matters Radio. He's helping us to see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes.
Hello, and welcome to episode 33 of Situational Awareness Matters Radio Show. I'm your host, Rich Gassaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness and decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence environments. The SA Matters mission is simple: to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today from Scott Township Fire Department in neighboring to Evansville, Indiana. I've been in Evansville delivering a 5-day Company Officer Development Institute program sponsored by the Indiana Department of Homeland Security and hosted by the Evansville Fire Department. We wrapped that program up this past Friday, and then I came over here to Scott Township for a 2-day situational awareness and firefighter safety program. This is my second visit to Scott Township, and they've been fabulous hosts, having invited me to dinner 3 times. I'd also like to give a shout out to Jim Pauley and the crew at Evansville Fire Department Station 3, who is going to be hosting me for dinner tonight, and I'm looking forward to breaking bread with my brothers and sisters at Station 3. The last time I ate at Station 3, they served me a steak that was so huge it was falling off both edges of my plate. So I'm really looking forward to meeting up with Jim and the crew and seeing what they have planned for tonight's dinner. The progress on the new website's moving along, but my travel schedule's been cutting into the time a little bit for me to work on the site. As I speak to you, as I said, I'm coming from Evansville, and I'm in the middle of a 16-day consecutive tour where I'm going to be delivering 9 programs in 8 cities. And the travel's just a little bit grueling, so thanks for your patience right now. For those who are members of the SA Matters community, which means you've clicked on the red box on the right side of the homepage that says SA Matters Membership, you've watched as I've painstakingly developed the website over the past 3 years. The existing site's been pretty basic, I admit that, because I wanted to focus all my attention on delivering good content, and I wasn't worried so much about the aesthetics. There's a couple hundred articles on there, and they're all free to read and download and share. But I know the cool stuff keeps people coming back, and that's why I'm working on developing the new site. And it'll have, I think, some pretty cool features. One of the things I have added to the website is a membership opt-in feature. And that means anybody who signs up for the free membership now gets a special report that I've created called 25 Best Practices for Improving Firefighter Safety. So if you're not a member yet, go over to the website and click on that red box on the right side of the homepage and sign up. It's completely free, and you'll receive my monthly newsletter that addresses situational awareness and first responder safety issues. For anyone who is a member, be watching your inbox. In celebration of the 3-year anniversary of SA Matters, I'm going to be sending out some free videos that will, for all intents and purposes, be mini courses that'll focus on how we train firefighters to fail and share with you some best practices for how to fix the problems. You may want to consider adding support at richgassaway.com to your safe senders list. Otherwise, the emails with the video link might go to your junk or spam folder. And I promise these are videos you're going to want to watch and share with others. And if I didn't mention it, they're free, so you don't have to get knotted up about that. So be watching your inbox, and they'll be coming out sometime soon, December, maybe early January. I'm still working on recording and editing those. I'd like to take just a moment to thank some of the recent program hosts for the SA Matters live events. These events couldn't be possible without the commitment and the support of our program hosts. Recently, as I mentioned, Evansville Fire Department and Chief Mike Conley And also thanks to the Indiana Fire Training Director, John Buckman, who has supported these company officer development programs. We've done, I don't have the count in front of me, but 16 or 17 of these week-long programs in Indianapolis and Gary and Fort Wayne and South Bend and New Albany and Evansville and Columbus and White River Township. And next year we'll be at the Indianapolis Airport and Terre Haute and probably a few other locations. So the whole design of that program is to help company officers be successful in leading at the company level. If I'm talking to a chief, I'd say it's to help keep problems out of the chief's office and help company officers figure out how to lead, inspire, and solve problems at their level. Then we're in Scott Township now. And thanks to Chief Keith Carr, this is the second time I've been at Scott Township presenting, so I appreciate the invite back. Some upcoming programs: I'm going to be at Raleigh Fire Department on January 8th, and thanks to my host, Chief McGrath there. And then on, I think I said January 8th, December 8th. Sorry about that, Raleigh. On December 9th, I'll be at Carborough Fire Department in North Carolina, and my host, Chris Covington, there. And then on Saturday, I think it's December the 13th. Let me bring up my calendar here just to make sure. Yeah, Saturday, December the 13th, I will be at the Matthews Fire Department in Matthews, North Carolina, and my host, Chief Green, there. This is my second time back to Matthews, so thank you for inviting me back. And then the following Monday and Tuesday, December 15th and 16th, I will be in Glenview, Illinois, Cicero, Illinois, and Blue Island, Illinois. And the host there is the Cook County Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management and Robert Dunn. And thank you for inviting me back. This is my fourth visit there this year, and I think we're going to have some things planned for next year as well. Then right after Christmas, I will be at Brighton Township Fire Department in the Beaver County, Pennsylvania area. And thanks to my host, Gary Gordon, for giving me that opportunity. On occasion, I get some really cool emails sent to me, and I just had one sent to me this week that I wanted to share with you from David McKenzie, captain from the Bend, Oregon Fire Department. It says, Chief, I just finished your Situational Awareness for Emergency Response book. Wow, all caps with an exclamation point. Wow, great information. Thanks for devoting so much time and energy to this topic. I teach both within the fire department and also at the local community college, and I'd like to put together a training class on highlighting this topic. Can you suggest how to put this all together in a 1 or 2 hour presentation? And just for the listeners, I followed up with David and gave him some advice on that. And then he went on and said, better yet, can I entice you to come to Central Oregon to the Bend area for a bit of rest and relaxation? Oh, could I use that? Thanks, David. You had me at hello with that one. For a bit of rest and relaxation. I've been to Bend before and presented there, and it is a beautiful area. And maybe put on a class for us. So I'll follow up with you on that too. I think we're halfway there because I know how beautiful the area is. Then he goes on to say, thanks again for passing along the information that I can use today and have great impact on the initial arriving company officer, David McKenzie, Captain, Bend Fire Department, Bend, Oregon. Thank you, David, for that feedback and for giving me permission to share this out with my community. And it's really special when I get that kind of feedback, so I really do appreciate it. Okay, let's jump into our feature segment. On January 14th, 2010, the Wadesville Fire Department was dispatched to a residential dwelling fire. Deputy Chief Adam Farrar served as the incident commander. During the incident, the crew on an interior fire attack nearly fell into the basement through a burned-out floor. And then a second crew narrowly escaped off the roof before it gave way under the strain of the fire in the attic. And Adam's going to share with us how these two events played out. Some takeaways he's going to share with us is the need to complete a thorough 360-degree size-up to form situational awareness about what's burning and where the fire is located. Ensuring haste does not compel a firefighting crew to rush into a situation that could otherwise prove catastrophic. The need for a strong commander who is willing and able to order a crew out of a structure when the crew may not want to come out. And finally, Adam will share the lessons that they took away and how they changed some policies and procedures as they learned from these mistakes and fixed the issues to help prevent it from ever happening again. So let's jump into our interview with Deputy Chief Adam Farrar with the Wadesville, Indiana Fire Department.
January 14th, 2010, approximately 2300 hours. I was at home with my family, in bed, asleep at this time. Got a response for a possible residential structure fire. This residence being dispatched was quite a distance from our fire station. Probably about a 12 to 14 minute response time on a normal occasion, daytime response, maybe a little bit longer in the evening. Woke up, fire chief at the time cleared the response, responded to the station from my home along with everybody else that was on our first due apparatus. Left the station with a crew of 6 that evening, myself being the officer of the truck, an engineer, and 4 firefighters in the back, one of being a lieutenant at the time and an assistant chief. Both responded from home to the station. During the response, dispatch came back and advised us that we had received multiple calls of a working residential fire. Another one of my company officers lives in the area of this, and he confirmed that it was a working fire with smoke showing as he drove past the scene to respond to the station to get additional apparatus. At that time, called for immediate mutual aid companies from 3 neighboring departments for engines, manpower, and tanker due to being an unhydrated area. Our typical response would give us approximately 35 to 4,000 gallons just from our department on arrival versus more than that with the incoming departments. On the way there, my crew and I discussed what our tactics were going to be off what information we had been given. To us, it sounded like just an everyday routine residential fire. We make, for being in a rural area, volunteer fire department, we make quite a few of the, as we called them at the time, routine residential fires. Pretty easy knockdowns.
This discussion you were having with your crew, give the listener an idea of, kind of like what the discussion sounded like. I mean, what were you saying to them?
Discussion was started out by, exchanging of accountability tags, which is a common practice for us. From there, who was going to perform what duty. Our department doesn't typically have an assigned duty per seat they ride in. It's the company officer's decision on who they're going to put where, depending on who responds to the truck.
Okay.
This one is I made the assistant fire chief. He was the company officer that was going to be making the interior attack, knowing that we were going to be the first apparatus on scene. I was going to take the incident command role, which left us with the 2 in, 2 out rule. However, being the first truck there, it does get kind of hectic, and it doesn't always pan out to exactly how you plan it. But we decided that who the crew was going to be to make the initial attack. We knew from just general overview of the area, knowing where we were going, that we were going to be down a lengthy lane with limited access to get trucks in and out. So we made the decision that we were going to stop at the end of the driveway and drop supply line from the edge of the driveway to where we were going to park our apparatus. General stuff like that we talked about. What our intentions were when we got there. That kind of stuff. So we get there, we pull up, and sure enough.
How long did it take you to get there from time of tones till you arrived, estimated?
I'm going to estimate somewhere between the 14 and 16 minute response.
Okay.
I'm not 100% accurate, but I would say somewhere average in that area would be a 14 to 16 minute response from dispatch.
Okay.
We arrive on scene. We do have appears to be a single story residential structure. There is smoke showing. However, it is dark outside. It is nighttime. There's no visible fire from the front of the structure.
Okay.
We do have, as I said, some smoke showing. Whenever, not necessarily common practice, but whenever we stopped at the end of the driveway to drop our supply line, the company officer that was assigned to make the interior attack, if so was desired, got off the truck and performed what he called his own 360 size up prior to me getting off the truck and performing mine and calling the incident command. We dropped the supply line, got in position. I called incident command. I got out of the truck, As they were gathering their equipment together, I did my 360. Walk around the structure. 3/4 of the structure appears to be a single-story residential structure. However, that last quarter you get around, it ends up being a walkout basement with extremely heavy involvement in the basement. Extremely. Before I could get around to the front of the house, the company officer, which I had performed his own size up, had taken the crew that he was assigned and was headed through the front door.
Okay. Adam, had he walked around the back too?
From my understanding, yes. Later on, after talking about it, he had not. He actually went to the D side of the structure, looked, and what, like I said, 3/4 of the structure appeared to be a single-story residential structure. He missed the B and the BC corner, which is where you would have found out that it was a full walkout basement underneath.
Okay, so he doesn't know the fire's in the basement.
Correct.
Okay.
So from there, as I'm coming around, I can assure that there's no reason for anybody to be going in the structure. So as I catch them and advise them to back out, I get some.
Were they in already?
They were already through the door.
How far in?
They were probably about 4 feet in the door.
The whole crew?
The crew, yes.
Okay. There's 4 of them, right?
There's 2 on the attack, 2 of them outside in the
yard. Oh, okay, 2 and 2 out.
So,
okay.
As they knock in the door, you can tell that it's extremely heavy black smoke, and it starts pouring out of the front. It had not self-vented at this point in time out the front of the structure. It was strictly out the rear of where the walkout basement was. Mm-hmm. I was able to stop them. I was able to pull them out. Got some grief for the fact that we pulled them out, but once we discussed it, they realized why.
Well, what do you mean grief?
They could understand why I was pulling them out, because to them it was just another everyday house fire, and they were going in, they were going to put the fire out, not knowing what they were crawling into.
So what did grief sound like?
Questioning my decision of why I pulled them out.
Were they angry?
Yes.
So
at that point in time, they were angry.
Were they? Would you say the way they were? Were they giving you pushback, like we should be going in, don't stop us? Did they say, okay, Chief, whatever you say, it's all good? I mean, what? Because you had to stand up against a crew that was not happy, and this is a critical lesson of this whole interview. I mean, there may be many other lessons, but this is one of them, that the person who knows the right thing to do might have to stand up against people who don't understand why you're doing what you're doing and hold your ground.
At first, there was the pushback because, like I said, the company officer going on the interior attack had done his own size up and couldn't figure out why I was pulling him out. Discussion was had. They understood my reasoning, and once they saw what they didn't see, they understood completely.
So they come out and they went around the back to see?
Yeah, once I explained to them why I was pulling them out, they both went around and realized that there was an issue.
Okay.
So from that point, we created a defensive fire attack. There was multiple times throughout this fire that we ran out of water. Water was an issue. We used master streams. We used large diameter attack lines. The house became a complete loss. There was no saving of pretty much any. There was no structural savings, and there was very little savings to the contents. However, as time plays on, the fire was extinguished. The next day, once we can go back and we can actually see it in the daylight. Actually, prior to seeing the daylight, just with scene lighting, once the fire was extinguished and we could see what was in front of us, there was a concrete pad in the front of the house that was a previous porch that had been enclosed that was about 5 feet long. The crew was about 5 feet in the door, 4 to 5 feet whenever we realized they needed to come out. Come to find out, you hear the stories, well, I'm crawling along and I didn't feel anything in front of me. Well, when he didn't feel anything in front of him, that was literally just the hole of where the floor used to be.
Oh, so they were on like the porch and he was just feeling in front of him and there was no floor there. It already had.
It was enough that it was gone, but there was enough black smoke that you couldn't tell that there was no floor in front of you by looking.
And he was just maybe inches from
Correct.
Going right into the hole.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Like I said, the what used to be the porch, it was enclosed, so they actually made entry into the actual structure. At that point in time, we didn't know that it was a porch prior. It was just a floor in front of them. Mm-hmm. So it was a close call on that, and even the company officer will admit that to this day now, he will admit that it was a close call just by what he found out after the fact.
Mm-hmm. And how might have things been different if you weren't there?
If I wasn't there, in my eyes, it probably could have turned a lot worse. I would hope that one of the other company officers, which I would have hoped that the company officer that made the attack would have done a 360. That is department policy that the incident commander does a 360 size up. Was then and still is now. There is additions to the policy now that nobody makes an interior attack until that 360 is completed. It's not, I did mine, I'm going to go ahead and I'll deal with it later. It's you wait. It may take 1 minute, it may take 5 minutes, it may take 10 minutes, but they do wait.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I would hope that it wouldn't pan out any different than what it is now, and the fact that nobody would have lost their life, but just a simple fact that another chief officer didn't complete his complete 360 size up makes you think the fact that maybe there may not have been another company officer that would not have completed theirs.
Mm-hmm. And when additional crews were coming in, then there wasn't any of them that were of the mindset that they were going to do interior stuff. They knew then it was defensive. And
now with the response that, I mean, like I said, it's a volunteer department all the way around. By the time any other companies arrived, it was already declared defensive attack, and there was no question at that point whether or not we were offensive or defensive. From that point forward, it was defensive.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so the rest of the fire plays out, I assume, without incident for the.
There was another minor incident.
Okay.
During the attack, I don't necessarily remember if it was my decision, if it was my operations officer, because at that point in time we broke it down where we had an incident command structure where we had a safety officer and an operations division, and then myself as the incident commander stepping back. At some point in time, there was the idea that, well, it hasn't vented the roof yet, so for us to get the master stream in there, we're going to go cut a hole in the roof. I do know that we were not inches away from losing a firefighter, but inches away from losing equipment into a roof collapse due to the fact of just the impingement of the fire. We did have to replace a roof ladder after the fire, and we were, like I said, inches away from losing equipment. The crew got on the roof as they were instructed. They quickly got off the roof, but they left all their equipment. No questions. That wasn't question the fact that they left their equipment. It's just that we were able to safely remove that equipment from the ground versus somebody else being on the roof.
So they crew, how many got on the roof?
2.
Crew of 2 went up on the roof with a roof ladder.
With a roof ladder.
Hooked the peak with the roof ladder.
Correct.
Their objective or their mission was to create a vent hole.
Correct.
Did they get it started?
No.
They didn't even get it started?
No.
So what happened before they got it started?
They got on the roof. They had their 2 points. They had the peak of the roof and the edge of the roof, so they had their sturdy points, and they remained sturdy. However, once they got up there, they got to looking around, and on the back side of the structure there had been some self-venting, not a lot, but there had been some self-venting on the back side of the structure. This is all from the front. The officer, there was actually an officer on the roof with him. This would be the officer that lives in the area that declared it a working fire before anybody else arrived. He got up there. He questioned it. He felt around.
Question what?
He questioned the roof integrity.
Okay.
Once he was up there.
All right.
Once he questioned it, he made the decision to come off, but he made the decision to leave everything there.
Mm-hmm.
And shortly after the crew got off the roof started to give way, and the additional people were able to, as I put it, snag the vent saw from falling through the roof with a pipe pull from the ground.
Okay. Which means the fire was burning in the attic space when they put the roof ladder up and went up there. The fire was already burning in the attic space.
Yeah, they were, unbeknownst to myself, still as the incident commander, away from the scene. Not too far, but far enough away that I wasn't involved. There was another crew that was opening a vent hole, a E-vent hole on the D side of the structure, and was able to see through once they removed the vent.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point in time is whenever they realized that there was issues, and it all kind of worked at the same time. The crew on the roof realized there was an issue. At the same time, the crew opening the end cap of the house noticed the issue.
So, this crew's on the roof, and who tells them to get off? Or they decide on their own to get off?
They decide on their own to get off.
All right. So somebody says, go up, make a vent hole for the purpose of access to the master stream device. Is that what I understand?
Correct.
Okay. And they go up, and the officer that's up there says, this is not a safe place to be. Let's get off the roof. And they come down off the roof. How much time passes between them coming off the roof and the roof actually getting to the point of where it might have come in on them? I mean, what are we talking as far as time passage?
I'd estimate 2 to 3 minutes. Enough time for somebody to go back to the apparatus, get a pike pole, and remove the vent saw before it falls through.
And was the ladder saved, or did it come up?
The ladder was removed from the roof, from the ground ladder. However, it was replaced due to heat impingement from the visual stickers and then having it tested.
Okay. So they come down, they left their tools, they were kind of, I guess, in a hurry to get off kind of thing? Or?
The officer on the roof that made the call is a contractor by trade. He used his experience with that one to realize that this is a bad idea and came off the roof.
How old was the house, estimated? Newer, older?
I would say probably 70s construction.
Okay. All right. And so they decide to come off. They come off, and like within 3 minutes, then the roof sags? Sags. All right. And did you say it was or was not, or you don't remember, whether it was your decision that sent them up to the roof to make the hole for the vent?
I honestly, to this day, can't remember if it was mine or if it was operations. I cannot make a distinction on that one.
Okay. Was there any debrief after this incident? This particular incident had essentially 2 close calls, 2 near misses. Was there any kind of debrief about lessons learned from this incident after the incident?
It was discussed in detail at a couple training sessions, at a couple of meetings to get as many people involved as we can. We don't get everybody at every training or every meeting. There was a lot of discussion amongst the officers on policy changes, revamps, not necessarily changes, but revamping of policies, updating. Myself had just become the fire chief 6 months prior, so policies were fairly fresh and fairly new, but there was things that need to be modified and were.
So what are some examples of some of the policies that you either created or revamped or changed, or whatever term you want to put to it? What did you guys learn that you then turned into some action to make your firefighters safer?
I would say the biggest change or modification was that there's no entry into a facility until a 360 is performed, and the incident commander makes the decision of offensive or defensive before anybody goes in.
Okay.
Unfortunately, up to that point, it was, this is how we've done it, this is how we do it, and this is how we're going to do it. And I would really like to say, and I will say that since that point, even though I'm no longer the fire chiefs in between me have kept that policy in place.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Was there anything that changed about the roof incident as far as how you guys would do things? Was there any takeaways that changed anything from that?
Yeah, there has been. There's been more training. There's been a lot more training on roof operations. There's been a training simulator built. We have a training center that's jointly combined between us and a neighboring department, where there's a burn chamber. There previously was a car fire simulator, and now there's a roof simulator that's been built, and there's some more training on that one. Roof operations isn't a big one. We don't have a truck company. We just are engine companies, and it's kind of an all for one. Unfortunately, that's the best way to describe it. So a lot of our guys have gotten a little more building construction, a little more roof operations. We actually had the general contractor that made the decision to come off the roof explain his decision why to everybody, and actually explain a little bit more building construction.
Mm-hmm. Now, the person who told them to go to the roof to begin with, you had said, was to create a hole that was going to be the application of the master stream. So was that, as you discussed this after the fact, was that decision made? I'm trying to wrap my mind around what was compelling the person that gave that order? Was it to, if we do this, if we make this hole, we might actually save some of the structure. If we're able to get this hole made and get the water through that hole, then we might be able to cut the fire off and save some part of the house? Or was it, if we get this hole made and get the water through, then we'll get this thing out faster, but probably not save anything? What compelled the decision? What was the motive of the decision to send the crew to the roof? I understand what they were going to try to accomplish, putting water in, but what were they hoping that water would do?
Not knowing the layout of what the inside of the house was, I can say from the incident command side of it, it would have been to potentially save parts of the contents of the structure. At that point in time, we knew the basement was gone. We knew right at the front door was burnt through, but there's still a 2-car garage. There's still potential parts of the house that still have contents in it. So at least from my perspective, it would have been to try to stop it from going further. We've already lost part of the house. There's no question about it. But if we can save anything that's left in the house, whether it be a notebook that somebody had something written in, that's better than losing everything.
Okay. And were you able to save?
Very little. There was some contents in the garage that were saved, but other than that, pretty much once the fire was extinguished and we could see where we were going, pretty much the contents of the house itself had the basement underneath it and had burnt through and fallen in and burnt up.
Was there anybody home when the fire started?
There was an occupant. He was on scene. I'm trying to think back exactly where he ended up. I want to say he was actually detained by law enforcement for not necessarily impeding the operation, but causing more headache than good, trying to be up there. And
okay,
I'm 99% sure law enforcement was called in to basically detain him while the operation was going on.
Okay, so when you guys arrived, was there somebody there to say everybody's out, and I'm sure there is, or was there?
No.
Okay.
He was not seen at that point in time. Whenever I got out to do my 360, speaking to the other company officer, he never spoken to anybody that was a resident. At some point in time after we pulled the crew out and made a defense operation is whenever this guy was located, the homeowner was located, actually standing in the backyard. Nobody had ever made contact with us, nor was there any cars in the driveway.
Okay. So you didn't know initially on arrival whether there was somebody inside or not inside? No,
and being that time of the night, you would think there would be somebody there. But after the 360, if there was, there wouldn't have been. It would not have been a positive outcome.
Okay. So when you 360'd, you didn't see him standing back there?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so he eventually made his way back there from somewhere else. He might have been at the neighbors or whatever. And then he impeded. At what point did you find out that he was the occupant? Where are we at in the timeline on the fire here?
Thinking back, I would say it was probably sometime shortly after we called a defensive fire attack is whenever he started making his presence known, wanting to know why we weren't putting the fire out.
Okay.
You try to explain to him, that there's no positive side to this. And I would say probably within the first 20 minutes of the incident is whenever he was detained by law enforcement.
Okay. And was there an opportunity to glean from him that no one was in the house? I mean, was he forthcoming with that information enough that you guys realized that you didn't have lives to save?
My memory serves me correctly. Yes, there was a time whenever he made the comment that he was the sole resident. There was nobody else in the structure at that point in time.
Okay, so you guys could set aside, after you had contact with him, set aside concerns for life safety of civilians.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was after the crew had already come out of the front door.
Correct.
But before the crew went up on the roof.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So when the crew went on the roof and you guys were trying to cut the fire off, it wasn't out of concern that there might be somebody inside. It was all purely with the motive of trying to reduce property loss on the fire.
Correct.
Okay. What else did you guys learn from this?
There was a lot of lessons, especially on my behalf. I was a young chief officer. It was always ingrained to me that we're going to make the response, we're going to put the fire out, and we're going to go home. Well, you learn fairly quickly that may not be the option. Slow down, take your time. Yeah, fire doubles, triples, it gets bigger, however you want to look at it. But personally, from my perspective, it's better to send the guys home afterwards than to save the structure. Still in my mind, there's a difference between saving property and saving a life. If there's a chance to save a life, we're going to do it. If there's a chance just to save the property, stop and think about it first. The risk versus benefit. I've taken a fair amount of courses on the risk versus benefit, and there's a lot of good instructors out there that'll tell you the difference and their opinions on it. And you can pretty much bank that their ideas, they fall in line somewhere down the line. Is the risk worth it? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not.
If that crew had arrived and that guy was out front and he'd have said, "Oh, there's somebody inside in the bedroom upstairs," that crew could have very easily went right past that porch and straight into the basement.
Correct. It probably have been a quicker interior attack than what it actually was at that point, at that evening.
Uh-huh. And the people on that hose line, I'm assuming, were experienced firefighters because they're officers, but that doesn't necessarily in a volunteer agency speak to the amount of experience.
Probably two of the most experienced officers on the department, experienced members on the department.
All right.
Yeah, I would definitely say those two would definitely be two of the most experienced.
Uh-huh. Now, this person who was on the nozzle, who reached forward and felt the abyss, which was the hole. What did he have to say later on? Do you remember?
He understands. He to this day, I think he still knows there was the opportunity for a negative outcome. And I would say to today's age, his thought process has changed. At that point in time, I'm not 100% that his thought process would have changed. There's things that's happened in his life since then that would make a different opinion. He has a family, he has children. Different things. People think differently.
Yeah.
At that point in time, we were all fairly young. We were a department that was coming out of some lower management administration and trying to revamp and actually become a progressive department again. And there was definitely some times that it was questioned, and our abilities were definitely questioned. And people will argue with you today whether or not my outlook has changed, but I can guarantee you things have changed in my outlook. Mm-hmm. There's been plenty of other times that I'll step back and think about it before anybody goes into places. And we used to have the policies of overhaul and car fires not wearing air packs, or barn fires not wearing air packs, and not necessarily that incident itself, but over time, as you get older and you start progressing and you start thinking about just going home, and those guys got to go home that night. Mm-hmm. Your outtake on it changes quite a bit.
Yeah. And now, what would you say to somebody who would say, "Look, when I arrive at a fire, I can see what's going on from the street level. I don't have to do a 360 size up," or there could be somebody inside. I don't have time to waste doing a 360 degree size up. There's some people out there that kind of have some stubborn mindsets about the need to do a 360 size up when they think they already know what's going on, or they feel maybe there isn't time to waste. What would your wisdom say to them?
Slow down, take your time. There's something that you don't see that somebody else may see. Or there's something you didn't originally see that you're going to see. Like I said, rescue. There's a side to it that you're gonna do your best to save a life. But again, slow down and look at the risk versus benefit. If you can't go in there and save them, they're probably not savable. Just remember that even if you don't have a family in your household, somebody there is waiting for you to come home and doesn't want to see you not come home.
Right.
And just slowing down and looking at the overall picture is probably the biggest thing. Just from what you can see when you pull up isn't necessarily what you see when you walk around the back or walk around the side or any point of it. And even what you saw when you first walked up there, by the time you walk around and come back to the front, it could be different.
Mm-hmm. Did you build 360s into how you trained then going forward? Or we've talked some about that in the class that we did this weekend. Or did you create the policy but then maybe miss some of the opportunities to build those 360s into training evolutions?
Training evolutions, yes, there are 360s.
Okay.
Whether or not we change how the training is going to be conducted after that, I would say no. Yes, the company officer gets off and walks around the burn chamber and does a 360, but it's the same thing. We trained them to go in and put the fire out and come back out.
So after the 360, in training, after the 360, they always go in.
They always go in, and even to the point that the burn chamber don't put the fire all the way out because the next crew needs to be able to put it out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily it's not beneficial in the long run.
And from class today, you might see that there might be an opportunity to
change that,
to swing at that training just a little bit differently. Yeah, and get to those firefighters where they become good decision makers based on the information in the moment that helps them make that good decision. Well, thank you for taking some time. You know, we were here for class all day yesterday and a half a day today, and probably the last thing you wanted to do, and together for class all week in Evansville. So probably the last thing you want to do is just sit down and blab with me some more. So I appreciate you sitting down with me, doing the podcast, and sharing the lessons from what now I understand a double close call incident at the same fire. Very, very good lessons. Thank you. Well, that's it. Episode 33 is complete. Thank you to Wadesville Fire Department Deputy Chief Adam Farrar for taking time from your busy schedule to talk with me today. Thank you to our listeners for sharing some of your valuable time with me today, too. I sincerely appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. If you've experienced or witnessed a near miss and would like to be interviewed on the show, visit SA Matters and click on the Contact Us link. Thank you in advance for sharing your lessons learned so that others may live. If you like the show, please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio and search for SA Matters Radio, not just SA Matters Radio, and subscribe to the podcast and leave your feedback if you would please. If you like the show, I'd appreciate you also giving it a 5-star review. Not only does that motivate me to work harder for you, but it'll also help others find the show as it ranks higher in iTunes. If you've been inspired and want to learn more about situational awareness, consider becoming a member of the SA Matters community. It's free, and when you sign up, you get that special report that I mentioned earlier in the show, 25 Best Practices for Improving First Responder Safety. So to claim your free gift, head over to the SAMatters.com website, click on the red box on the right side, and sign up. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gassaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gassaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgassaway.com.